It's 7 o'clock. We will open the Tuesday, September 5th, 17 Wabasha City Council meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, welcome to our September and Septoberfest month meeting. We have no guest speaker scheduled for this evening, but we always open up for public comment, so if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address the council for any reason, you're welcome to do so now. Just identify yourself. Seeing no one, we'll move council members. Any changes or additions to the agenda?
We need to add a few invoices, and these are from the League of Minnesota Cities for our annual dues notice, our membership basically, which is $2,738, and the Mayor's Association membership for $30. So those will be added to warrants. They just came in today.
Okay. We then move to the mayor's message for 9/5/17, and I wanted to share with you that there were several political activities that I engaged in since our last council meeting. On August 9th, 2nd District Congressman Jason Lewis visited Wabasha and the National Eagle Center, and we got to meet Congressman Lewis. He got to meet us. On 8/24, many local citizens met at the Anderson House to learn about the Minnesota Main Street program. Mary Fleetcheck, who serves on our Historic Preservation Commission, arranged for a presentation. And Craig, you were there, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
There were maybe 35, 40 people there?
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Yeah, so we had a presentation by one of the Minnesota Main Street leaders. On August 25th, Senator Franken was in town and with some staff members. He visited Wabasha to familiarize himself on the Army Corps of Engineers dredging plan. He spent time at the Willard Drysdale farm, and he spent time the River Drive South neighborhood. And today, and then I should mention a week later, Senator Klobuchar was in town and followed the same track. She spent time at the Drysdale farm and again at the River Drive South area, familiarizing herself with the land involved in the dredge plan. And today, the Minnesota House Capital Investment Committee stopped in Wabasha. The city has presented a bonding request for riverfront revitalization, which would include bonding funds to enhance our riverfront. The meeting was held by the fountain downtown and at the National Eagle Center. Several council members, several Port Authority members attended. It was my privilege to welcome the House members while Chad and Rolf gave detailed presentations. And Rolf said he heard some good comments. Really good or just good?
Oh, really good.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes me feel better. Okay, so now we'll get back to the regular agenda. Which will include committee reports, starting with Craig.
Well, the Planning and Zoning Committee met on August 8th, and their main thing on the agenda was the request by Gherkins to add another grain bin to their property, which would be as high as their highest building right now, which would be 100 feet in height. And John Evers thought that the meeting was at 7 o'clock, so he didn't show up for a while. In the meantime, we took some testimony. There were people that were objecting because of odors there that may come from roasting soybeans or other things. Some complaints because of dust, some complaints because of noise. Because the mill is located on, can't remember what zone exactly, it's not industrial, it's commercial.
Commercial.
Yeah, commercial, there's two words, but it's zoned commercially. So he's within most of his rights in that zoning, but he did need a conditional use permit. However, he's got, I don't know, probably 6 to 10 other bins on that site doing the same type of work. So the amount of work would be increased, wouldn't be a great deal. It wouldn't be doubled. It wouldn't be anything like that. It would be a percentage of what he's doing right now. And because he's been there since 1880, we decided that we'd go ahead and approve that permit, which we did, and thought that if there is a problem with dust and odor, at least dust, there's a way we can monitor that. We can ask the PCA to monitor it the same way we're asking them to monitor the frac sand dust. So there are ways to control that. So that was written into some of the conditions. So that was approved. That was about it for the meeting. We're still working on rewriting the zoning ordinance because it's a big ordinance. It's taken a while to do that, and they're still working on that. Hopefully, we'll get that done before the first of the year. And our next meeting is scheduled to be in September. This would be a week from today, so September 12th. However, we haven't had any applications for any type of permit or any type of issues have come up, so we may cancel that meeting. We're getting a poll of the members right now to find out if there are any issues that they want to discuss. And that's it.
Any questions for Craig on the bins? If not, let's move on to Steve.
The Utilities Commission met today, and there are probably two things of interest. Number one, up on the hilltop, when we put the sewer system in, it was determined that the residents who had a septic system that was an approved septic system could continue to use it, provided that they had it inspected every 3 years and that it deemed to be still in working order. They could continue to use it. They did that, and now the 3 years has passed by, and they are now required to have it inspected again. So there will be a letter sent out to those residents on septic to have their system approved. And then also the new truck that the Utilities Commission is getting, the commission determined that they approved buying light bar, snowplow lights, communications radio, and Tony happened to run across a snowplow that's in new condition, not hardly used, and we could acquire that plow for at least $2,500 less than buying a new one, and so the commission approved buying that. And after that work is done, the utility truck will be ready to go. It'll have the hoist and everything in it, and it'll be ready for service. So that's all I have.
Questions for Steve? Then let's move to Tony on streets and parks.
Good evening. There was no street commission meeting held today. And as far as the park board, we had Tony Smith and family is donating money for a memorial bench and a plaque located in Beach Park. Park Board, we got approval on where to put that, and we'll get that ordered, depending on the acceptance of the donation later tonight by the City Council. We're going to plant a couple trees in the campground. Not a big deal there. And the docks, the 2 docks that we installed, one on each side of the bike path for the camper use, is completed. So we're looking at, the only thing we got left is getting some sidewalk done to those ramps that lead to the docks, and should be good to go. Gotten some compliments on them, and nothing bad yet to speak of. So they're all signed and ready to go. So that's it.
Okay, Tony, couple questions. Any follow-up on the Emerald Ash Borer
As far as
from last meeting?
no, not yet.
Any further action, rather?
Yeah, we're still waiting for the tree inventory, and we kind of work on the budget after that. As soon as we get some information on it, I would suspect in the next month we might have an idea, but then we should take that to the park board and look at the parks and boulevards and see what the plan's going to be.
Okay. The new ramps that you put in down by the park
Campgrounds?
Are they public or
No.
private for campground only?
They were when the park board decided to make an improvement to the campground. It was decided and wanted by the campers that that be just for campground use, and their family, friends for fishing, loading and unloading boats, and because the public has the launch over at Ike's Park, and then the other marina, upper marina, is a city dock too as well. So income that they revenue, the revenue from the campground for every year, and that's kind of what drove the improvement needed down at the campground.
I know at the time there was collaboration, there was compromise, and so both parties contributed to the end result.
Yes.
They look very nice.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, very
Thank you.
nice. Any questions for Tony?
Well, since you brought it up, Mayor, I've had complaints about, or not complaints, questions from the citizens about whether they can fish and stuff off those docks. And, that $20,000 of taxpayers' money went into those. And I'm not quite sure why we wouldn't allow our citizens to fish off of those. And I had 5 individuals this weekend, 3 of town, but they own a house in Wabasha, and they were told to turn around and this weekend to get off the docks. So I think it's going to be an issue, and I think it's something that we have to think about because taxpayers did pay for it. So I think we need to talk about it.
Right.
It's going to be
Dean,
a number one issue. So.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. I note that Chad's typing away here, so there'll be some further checking into that.
All right.
No solution tonight.
So we need to look into it. So.
Okay, good.
Any more questions?
All right, let's move to John.
Port Authority met on 15th of August. A couple items in business. One was an update from St. Elizabeth's. The administration came in and gave the Port Authority a bit of an update. All's going well. Their clinic is open. They continue to recruit and bring new staff on, doctors and such. They are partnering with Mayo on some certain specialties, and it seems to be going quite well. There's been a great support locally for the new clinic that's opened. And I think ultimately what they're looking at doing is there'll be enough availability in their new regular clinic that they'll probably look at maybe discontinuing the urgent care at some time in the future. So they're feeling really positive about it. The other thing we talked about was Riverfront Bonding Project. We talked about retaining a lobbyist, and the Port Authority didn't take any action on that. We were going to be to the city council, but between now and then, or then and now, the National Legal Center made the determination that they would take that burden on as part of their investment in trying to get this bonding request moving forward. So as a part of their expense, they're gonna go ahead and do that. We may bring it back and discuss it later, at a later date, but at this point, that's what the action is gonna be, so. Our bonding request is gonna have the support of a lobbyist at the state capitol, and at this point, we can thank the National Legal Center for doing that. That's about it.
Any questions for John?
Chad, anything else on St. Elizabeth's? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got her, yep.
Yeah, I didn't take much notes on that one, so,
Ramping up there.
yeah, it's exciting.
Dean, Jeff, and Brian, anything on your mind you'd like to discuss? Okay, if not, let's go to the administrator's report.
Okay, I won't repeat a lot of the things that the mayor and I attended a lot of these meetings with Frank and Lewis. I missed the Klobuchar one. I had a separate meeting with Representative Drzkowski. Again, he's really carrying the ball on the state side for working with the different agencies on this dredge plan. We had a meeting with the DNR and Fish and Wildlife again, working with trying to get in-river use for the sand that supports the species that they've put up some flags against. So continuing to work with that. As far as the core plan goes, based on kind of our little agreement with the Corps, we should be getting a list of the alternatives close to the 9/15 date, so we're within 10 days of that. Probably at the end of this week or the first part of next week, I'm going to reach out to kind of that core that we had, including Brian and our other experts, as well as county and some of the landowners that are affected, so we can be ready for when that alternative list comes to hit the ground running, working on that. So yeah, that's kind of been a lot of the last month. The county did agree, I forwarded a note on, the county did agree to put $10,000 towards the fight. That's for new work that we'll be doing here in the next couple months. We are just north of the 40,000 already with our expenses, so that stuff adds up quick, of course, especially when you get legal and other advice in there. So any questions on that?
And those numbers are in the warrants for this month.
Yes, yes. As far as the budget goes, as we continue to work on that, we'll probably, in the November workshop, have another working session with the budget just to bring the council up to date on things that have changed since our workshop last week. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Last week? Last week. As we get closer to the final number.
Are you keeping any like separate tab on what you're spending for the Corps of Engineer fight, so we can all of us can see what the
Yes.
city's actually spending?
Yes, we have a separate project number we've set up in the ledger to track it all.
And that includes engineering services.
Engineer, it includes any bills we're paying. It doesn't include our own time.
All right, any other questions for Chad? If not, we'll move on to number 8, the consent, which is the approval of the August 1st regular minutes, the 2016 Wabasha County Maintenance Agreement. There's been a slight change there. Commercial lease agreement with MnDOT for West Main Street. What parcel is that?
That's under the bridge.
Under the bridge, and I noted that the farmer's market was mentioned in that. And then resolution to assess city services for mowing, resolution to adopt the Wabasha County All-Hazard Mitigation Plan, and the warrants, which now include 2 additional costs to the League of Minnesota Cities. Motion to approve the warrants?
I'll move. The consent.
Or the whole consent agenda, thanks. Motion made and second. Discussion? Favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Public hearing none tonight. General business. Brian, you got here just in time. And it's appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, you had in your packet the final pay estimate for the mill and overlay portion of the 2016 street improvement project. The amount of this payment is $9,428. The bid amount for the project was $704,000. The total work completed to date was $672,000, so finished under the bid amount. All the work for this contract has been completed, and we would recommend final payment for this portion of the 2016 project. Last month when I was here, I talked about the sewer lining portion of the project, separate contract. I reported at that time that all the work was done. We had a couple of punch list items that cropped up here since that time. They actually finished those on Friday last week, the last couple of liner punch list items. There is a patch on 2nd Street that they're going to do next spring and some striping. We wanted them to wait, let it sit over a winter. They had to do a deep dig there. So there'll be some work next year on that project, but those are no cost items because that's all corrective work at the contractor's cost. So we will have a final tabulation of costs for the project, both of these contracts, and then we'll be back next month at your meeting with a preliminary or a final assessment roll for you to do the assessment process for this project. So, any questions?
Okay, a motion to approve final pay estimate number 5.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Any questions?
Appreciate that it came in under budget, under contract budget.
Under bid.
Appreciate that it's over.
Yeah, that's always. I did see that Quam truck in town
Yeah,
this week.
that contract was a bit of a battle.
Okay, but are they done now?
They're done except for that little bit of street work that we got to do
Second,
next spring.
okay.
So,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you, Brian.
thank you.
Nice work.
Thanks.
Okay, we did have a budget workshop, didn't we? So tonight we are to approve the 2018 preliminary budget levy. We'll call for a public hearing December 5th, 2017. Chad, just a 30-second review of the steps in the budget as far as timing.
Oh, sure. Typically, we start after June expenses come through, we start putting together the worksheets for the department heads to start working through their budgets for the upcoming year. We roll it out to the department heads. They have a couple weeks to complete their portion. We roll it all together, make some tweaks. Between Patty, Sue, and I, we go through and look at all the expenditures, historical expenditures, and talk with the department heads on what's going forward. And then we schedule a workshop with the council, which we had about a week ago. This year, we had some of the big ticket items was about a 26% insurance cost. We talked through this with the council at this workshop and kind of put together a plan on how to smooth that over by utilizing some of the reserves. We are currently close to the 100% mark in reserves. And typically, first of all, our policy is at 40%, and even being a lot of communities shoot for that 50% mark. So we're sitting in pretty good shape to take some of these different years. I've completed a 5-year roll forward that we'll go through November with some of the expectations and kind of how we can how we're going to look in 5 years, and it's still a very solid picture going forward. So our first crack is setting a levy at 5 cents, which cannot go higher than that. it can only go down, and I believe the strategies we've talked about at the workshop, we will be able to keep that below that number easily. So this gives us kind of that leeway if we do have some anomaly pop up between now and the end of the year. We have some room there if needed, but I don't suspect that at all. So again, this is the high piece. When people get their tax statements for the next year, they will be based on this number. So obviously when we set the final number in December, that's when your tax statements get readjusted. So I always try to remember or remind folks of that when they see their tax statement at first. Those are always the worst case scenarios for taxes payable for the 2018 fiscal year. So
I don't think we can over-communicate on our budget. I don't think we can over-communicate on why it's 5.3%. That's the number that's going to show up in the newspaper. The county's number is going to show up in the newspaper. The school district's number is going to show up in the newspaper. Ours is 5.3. Chad has got many, many answers for many, many questions if the public has it. I just want to say that our reserves, depending on how you look at them, we're really about 200% of what we're required. So our city, I think, is in good shape there. And by using some of the reserves intelligently, we'll be just fine.
yeah, and for people that are looking for copies of the budget, it's actually out on the web page on Shop. The detailed, 20-some pages of the budget by department is out there. And before I forget, we did tighten up the time frames this year just based on some of the workload we had. So the department heads really turned these around in a quick manner this year. And they are some solid budgets, I think. So I'd like to thank them for that. For what we had for the workshop was a pretty solid product in a relatively tighter time frame than what we've had. So,
Well, good going, everybody. So now I'll ask for a motion to approve the resolution setting the preliminary budget levy and setting the dates and times for the required truth and taxation hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion or questions?
Yeah, I have a few things to say.
Okay.
I guess it kind of goes across the whole state that the cities always set this preliminary budget, and it's always a high number, and there may be a reason for that, but it always seems, if it's a high number, why make it a high number? Why don't we make it a more reasonable number? Because, I mean, this way it lets the county boards and the city councils and everybody look good because they come in under that preliminary estimate, so they go, oh, we saved the taxpayers a bunch of money, we got it down there, when we had never had any intention to be at that high figure. So it's a little misleading, I think. And it's not Wabasha City, it's not Wabasha County, it's everybody across this state, maybe even in other states and the feds. That's just the way it kind of goes, but it's kind of an odd way to do business, I think.
I think people have actually gotten used to it, though, Craig. They know that what we're doing tonight is not what it's going to be. I mean,
Yeah.
It's no surprise to them anymore. So,
well, yeah, I think what you're saying is a fundamental problem at the state level as far as how they set their dates and how they set their budgets. Because, let's say, for example, we set this tonight at 2%, and another dredge type project comes in, and our reserves aren't there, and we're at 2%, we would have basically no leverage to increase that levy with that unknown. So there is some of that's in there, but it gives it's the conservative approach, so to speak. But you're right, it is, I know that some representatives at the state level are actually, they want to move that date back for that preliminary set, especially because November is election time. So they want to actually line it up after the election for that.
So there's that part too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, we're borrowing, we got the levy down from the original amount, which was 14% or something like that.
11.8.
11. And we did that through borrowing from the reserves, which we're really not reducing the levy at all, but we're taking money that we had in the bank and using that to kind of balance the books. So I'm wondering, and since I've been a department head for a number of years, and I've made out budgets, and there's usually, you leave yourself a little bit of wiggle room because you don't want to get caught short, but I wonder, what I would like to see is that we took a fine tip pencil to some of the budgets and see if there's any fluff or anything, I won't say fluff, but if there's any extra in there somewhere that we can trim a little bit. I think that would be a nice thing to hand the voters, saying it's not all coming out of reserves, we're trimming a little bit back. To run a tight ship, I think that would be a good goal.
Good. I think that's the job of everyone around this table from now until December 5th.
It's already started, Mayor.
And it's already starting, yeah. But that's our responsibility to work with Chad and the department heads and not spend a dollar more than we have to. So, good comments. Other comments? If not, did I get a motion to approve
Yes,
the
you
levy?
had both,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. I am going to make a change and go to number 11.1, which is a resolution accepting donations. And then we will be going into closed session. So I like to read the donations read because I think it's important to thank everyone who has contributed anything for our city programs. So, for Beach Park Bench, Tony Smith paid $766.66. For the pool splash pad, Faith Lutheran, Grace Memorial United Church, Goodwill Offerings, $237.16. And pool passes from Wabasha Kellogg Area Community Foundation, $500. Quick Trip donated $250 to the fireworks, as did the Wabasha Kellogg Area Community Foundation. And this month for Children's Library Expansion Project, and if you haven't been down there for a while, all the bricks up and the glass went in today. But Tom Penny, thank you for your $1,000 donation. Hardy and Judy shirts, $500. In memory of Mary Oshner by John Oshner, $500. Anonymous showing up again with $500. In honor of the citizens of Wabasha by Dean and Julie Plank, $250. In memory of Harold Wayne by Tony Smith, $125. Anonymous, $120. In memory of Rosie Lamy and friends and family, $115. Dennis Carr and Susan McClone, $100. Anonymous, $100. Laura Fredrickson, $100. In memory of Leela Burkhart by John Woodley, $100. Dave and Mary Oshner, $50. In memory of Andrew Thompson, beloved grandson by Oscar and Charlotte Ostrom, $50. Todd and Catherine Smith, $50. In memory of Lawrence and Regina Passy, anonymous. Dick and Bev Hanks, thank you, for $50. Anonymous for $50. Anonymous for $50. Dorothy Walter contributed $25. Dean Moyer contributed $25. In memory of Floyd Resner by Catherine Resner, $20. John and Mary Madison, $20. B. Mazzell, $20. Dean Moyer again, $20. In memory of Tim Moline by Chris and Mindy Wise, $20. Desserts Under the Bridge fundraiser. And did you have some of that pie that night? $621.40 was raised and donated. Children's Lemonade Stand on a hot Saturday, $120.80. There were $66 in cash donations. And the Carpet Square fundraiser, Brian, so far has $565. A motion to accept the donations?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. I have got material to read to you, council members, as we into the closed session.
Greg, could you